everyone, it's Natalie here. So again, got the boys hanging out. Einar's down here, and of course you can see Sven back up here. Um, I wanted to just do a quick ish video about what's coming up in June. So I am going to continue working with the Dark Goddess Tarot. This has been incredible. Lots and lots of insights and really amazing card draws coming from this. And so I feel like the best way to work with it right now is just through doing daily draws. But because it's coming from, goddesses and traditions that I'm largely unfamiliar with, I feel like it's going to be better to do it as a daily draw, and just stay with that as a practice, but not as my main deck. So more like an oracle deck, which is kind of how I've been using it. The book and the PDF for this deck is incredible. Just wanted to say that. It is really detailed, really concise, just well written, very, very good. The other deck I'll be working with a lot is the Luminous Void. So I got this one maybe last month, and I haven't had much time to work with it, but I feel called to. It's such a beautiful deck, and yet I was, kind of struggling to connect with it as much as I wanted to, and I finally did a deck interview yesterday morning with it, and it was amazing. I used Benebell Wen's Logging a New Tarot Deck form. First time. I've done deck interviews a lot in past, but I just thought, I want to try that just to see, how that would work and how that would affect the way that I take the deck in, the way that the interview goes. She recommends and puts lots of space at the top of that form for you to go, to look at each card, contemplate its symbolism, what's different about it, all of that sort of stuff. And it was a really valuable exercise. In fact, I'm not even done with all of that. I did the majors and I did a few of the minors, and I'll just continue to work with that, daily as I, do daily draws with it and stuff. But I'm really amazed by how much I like this deck. I will say this is the world's most awkward deck to shuffle. And I'm still, it's huge. And, even as you attempt to, I think you can probably see this, even as you just attempt to overhand shuffle it, and I usually do that sideways rather than vertically, but, it just doesn't work well. So if that's even hard, it's definitely not a riffle shuffle deck. Although I have found that by splitting it in half and then in half again, you can get enough purchase on the cards to be able to kind of, riffle them together kind of like that. And then even then, oops, they don't, they just don't slide across each other very easily. Oh, they both went to the back. They get heavy back there. They sometimes like to go back there and sleep. But yeah, it's just a challenging deck to work with. If she were going to do a second edition of it, I would have said maybe a slightly different card stock that slides against each other a little more, or just size them down, size them down enough that people can really, I have big hands and I struggle, to get a hold of this. Oops, there we go. To get a hold of this deck. It's a challenge. And it makes it hard to use. And when a deck is hard to use, we tend not to use it as much, right? So, and that's a shame because these are such beautiful cards. It's a gorgeous deck, but, I'm going to fight the good fight here and figure it out and see if I feel kind of like if the more I'm using them and the more I am forcing them to slide across each other, the more they're able to, which is helpful. Wrong side. Here you want. There we go. So it is getting easier. So we'll see after a month of regular use, like what changes in the deck and what, really what I have to say about it after working with it for a month. So there's that. I think I mentioned this in the May video, but I decided to go ahead and trim a set of Marielle first editions. So that's what I've got here. I'm probably going to do a lot of Marielle videos because the study of this deck is, of course, something I'm really into and I really love. But even just, I don't know if you can see that, like the edging from doing it with a Sharpie versus the edging on the deck. This one is the second printing copy. This one is the Nat Trimmed It copy. But, the edging it's not as dark. It's not as, I don't know, it doesn't look as good to me somehow. Also, there are differences I'm starting to see in the print quality, old, new, and just the detail. So, yeah, there will be plenty to talk about. I mean, some of this is camera distortion. I can tell you that right off the bat. Here we go. But yeah, there's plenty to talk about. Plenty. I'm surprised by how much I liked the trimmed version of this deck. And I'm really going to be curious to hear if anybody else, feels the same way about it, after getting the new ones. Anyone who trimmed a deck originally, yeah, like I want to know like how that's different for you now that you see the new matte-er versions of the cards. So there's that, and I will continue my work with it. I also feel a need to continue my work with the Spirit Speak. So I think I added that one to my monthly list. Let me just double check. Yeah, I did. It's been fun working with it. I feel like I didn't get as much good out of it last month as I might have because work was so distracting. I was less focused on work with the decks. I acquired quite a few decks last month, and I'm really feeling a need to actually work with the decks that I have at this point rather than trying to find more. That said, I am looking into getting new Oracle decks because I don't really have very many at this point. The few that I have one that I love, and it's the Tree Spirit Oracle by Simon Lilly. Love that deck so much, and I really don't work with it nearly enough, so I will be working with it more. I find that it works beautifully with, really beautifully with the New Earth Tarot. I mean, it would. The New Earth Tarot is very, very, it's earthy, it's very zen. So are those cards. So are the Tree Spirit Oracle cards. So really great. I haven't really started working with the Shamanic Oracle. I may go ahead and really give that one a try. But I'd also like to get the Empathic Oracle. I tried to get a hold of that like last week. I think it was last Friday. No luck. It said online that it was available at the Barnes & Noble near my house, or near my parents' house. Turns out none of us could find it anywhere, but I did find the Manifesting Your Greatness Oracle deck. And so I got that one instead. So I will have the video, like walkthrough and so on of that one. It is a Schiffer deck. That is the only negative thing I can say about it, is that Schiffer published it, which means that there are publishing flaws, printing flaws. The artist, however, Amy Chace, is amazing. And I love her work. And I love the beauty and the brightness and, the cardstock. It's that kind of wonderful ASMR cardstock. It's electric blue, cute little guys on the back. It's a great Oracle deck, really lovely, and it's a fun one to just like it doesn't feel overly reverent. Like I sit with it while I'm watching, watching a movie in the evening and kind of shuffle it just because it's nice to have something to do with my hands. and sometimes go ahead and just draw a few cards, while I'm sitting there in the evening. It's a really different experience for me, and I really enjoy it. It's a really good one. So there's that. We'll see. Mainly what I need to be doing is I've been given more advice than I need to, as much advice as I need to hear about this from both my own card draws and from, an experience I had the other night of going to have my cards read with the St. Louis card slingers. They all are telling me you need to sit, you need to meditate, you need to be back in your practice, and you need to do so, regularly, rather intensively for a little while. And I know that that's true. And so I'm going to need to be eliminating some distractions, which may mean not as much time on the tarot tube as I would like. I do still intend to get to all of the comments and to try and do my best to keep up wherever I possibly can. But I also need to be getting back to my art practice, because that is something that I've not really put much time into in recent months, and I miss it. I've realized going back to doing some more work recently how much of an impact it has on my nervous system and my well-being. I don't think I realized the extent to which that's actually true. He's back here bruxing. It's really cute. When rats rub their teeth together and brux, it's usually because they're really happy. So it's really cute. It's a nice little ASMR in your ear kind of thing. Artwork, yeah. So, yeah, I think spending more time going back to that and spending the time invested in my artwork, especially the stitching, is going to be a pretty powerful part of my practice. And saying that, I got really excited about that the other night, and I filmed a heap of videos. So there's going to be some art videos. They are short. I mean, for a Natalie video, they're like way short. So those will be coming out. I'll get those uploaded and just start, putting them out there a little bit more. And then, of course, it's really, working on websites and pulling together concepts for the work that I do. So, yeah, I feel like I need to spend the time meditating and really being still before it's possible. I'm just watching Sven in the camera here, and he's like, if you watch him, like, you can see his teeth going back and forth, and every now and again he's boggling his eyes. It's really cute. I might try and come a little closer so he's more visible. He's so relaxed. I love rats. They're so sweet. Anyway, so yeah, I will spend some more time getting that all, drawn together and pulled together. I realize that while I do want doula work, because that is very much part of my purpose, clearly so is the tarot. And so putting some time and effort into thinking about how I want that to go and how I want that to function and work is necessary. And art is definitely a big part of who I am and what I do. So that's also, those three facets, and they're all involve contemplation. I can't create without being contemplative. I certainly can't, being contemplative is what's led to a renewed interest in the tarot, and I'd say, I feel like it's becoming a pretty solid practice at this point. I've certainly invested a lot of time and effort and energy into that practice. It's served me very well to do that. And then, of course, being a doula requires a lot of space, because my sense of that work in St. Louis, while on a dream level, it would be a lot of, attending bedsides and really doing the work of being with people as they cross over. The reality of doing this work in St. Louis, I think, is probably, while that's hopefully going to be part of it. I think the reality is that a lot of it is going to be helping people and helping families negotiate and navigate medical situations, where they are sitting and being with family members in a hospital type situation where the person was rushed to the hospital and taken out of a nursing home or taken off of hospice in order to attend to something really urgent. Nobody wants to believe that their loved one is going to die because, someone at the nursing home pushed too hard on a fragile older person and accidentally punctured a catheter, for example, so that they're going to die because they're bleeding from that area of the body. Nobody ever wants that, and the suffering or potential pain and suffering and associated with it is awful. So occasionally it does happen that someone goes from being in a hospice circumstance to being in a hospital circumstance, and when that happens, it's very disorienting because the conversation goes from life affirming back to life preserving, right? And it's not a comfortable space because where you maybe where families are maybe more capable of saying like, okay, I understand that this beloved family member is in the process of dying. Suddenly, instead of having that being reaffirmed and reinforced through the care that they're receiving and through having a care team who is trained around that, suddenly in a hospital setting, doctors and nurses are all trained to save lives. That's their job. And so suddenly you may end up with a doctor's opinion about something that conflicts with everything you've already decided as a family, etc., which can lead to guilt, can lead to confusion, and it's very upsetting and disorienting for the dying person who's suddenly found themselves in a lot of pain, in an environment that is not comfortable and is not helping them, be at ease and be at peace with the process that they're trying to undergo. And the majority of my experience as a human being, as well as a doula, has been in those types of environments, unfortunately. When it's my own family, I have felt very differently about it. It's awful. When it is someone else's family, the pain that I've felt, I think, as a person watching that with my own family members has made it much more possible to be with it compassionately and lovingly, and comfortably even, as a doula, I guess. I'm just being so upstaged by, rat testicles right now. Just thought I'd name that, trying to talk about something serious, and the boys are just gonna take that and let's lighten up the load and make it funny. But that's what they do. So yeah, I have a feeling a lot more of the work that I do, especially in the Midwest, is really gonna focus around that, which is fine. I think it's a painful, circumstance, and my purpose really is to help address suffering. And so, if that's where we are as a culture in this part of the world, then to be available to that and to be available to a family who's going through that level of, cognitive dissonance and confusion, around caring for a loved one, and really the difficulty that's there for the loved one themselves, that's worth it. That's worth every ounce of practice that I put in. And I do tend to find those situations they're energizing. They feel like everything that I've been practicing for, like everything that I practiced for in the time of, in my life has, led me in that direction. So I I realized when I was working on my website yesterday that I needed to build that in as, you know, an option. So if a family comes to me and just calls and says, like, we're freaking out, we're in a hospital situation, we already knew that our, you know, father, grandfather, mother was dying, but now suddenly we're feeling like really unsure of how to manage the hospital circumstance. You know, having an option available that's just that felt like, yeah, I need to add that, because my experience is showing me that it's a thing. It happens a lot. You know, my grandmother had that when she began her dying process. She'd been on hospice for years, like years and years in the nursing home, which was great. You know, she was, I think, effectively on hospice for probably 8 or 9 years. And it was great. You know, she was beautifully cared for, and she got her hair done every week, and, you know, they were so loving and so good to her. And then suddenly she fell one day and I can't even fully remember because I was in Chicago when it happened. It's been almost 10 years ago, but she was 99 and very, very, very fragile. And Sven, come on, make a choice here, bud. She somehow ended up in the hospital because of the injury that she suffered from falling. And, you know, it was tough because, you know, my uncle's also a doctor, her son. So there's all of this talk about medical intervention and navigating everything away from that and back towards, look, she's 99, you know, she's very fragile. She's dying. She's been on hospice for years. Like, let's let this be what it is. That was a very challenging place, you know, to get to. And I was not present for all of that. My sister was, one of my cousins was, and I know that they are still suffering in many ways because of that. And I know, you know, my sister said in the time since that if she'd had someone there who was level-headed and calm and able to help them make those decisions without guilt, it would have changed that outcome significantly for her. So yeah, so that's a large part of where it's coming from. And my most recent client that I worked with also said that. So yeah, so just looking at how to shape that practice. And it does require a lot of mental clarity and stillness and space. So clearly I just need to stop what I'm doing and meditate. I've just talked myself back into it. All right. So that said, I'm going to go practice what I preach, and we'll see what unfolds for the month of June. I hope everyone has a beautiful June, and thanks for watching.